All right. Well, this is Awen, Druid at Large. I have no idea what my intro even should be anymore. If I think of a new one, I'll do it when I get home. But I'm pleased to be sitting here in some air conditioning with fellow Druid John Beckett. I will let you introduce yourself, whatever you find relevant.
I'm John Beckett, Druid, priest, and writer. Full member of the Druid Grade in OBOD, also a member of ADF. Been a member and leader of the Denton Covenant of Unitarian Universalist Pagans for over 20 years. Author of Path of Paganism, Paganism in Depth, editor of the Book of Cernunnos, and a bunch of other stuff that if you're interested, you can go to Google and find all kinds of stuff about me.
Certainly, you also write a fair amount on Patheos, which I usually find to be practical and refreshing. So I will simply point that out. But today, funny enough, we are going to be talking about, I suppose as meta as possible, just social media itself. And specifically, and I told you this over text when I brought up the idea, I am very loath perpetually to bring up the even concept that there is some druidic way to do anything. There is not. There are as many ways as there are, druids to navigate things. You guys get the idea. However, for the sake of conversation, I think it's important to talk about things that are active in the here and now, in the present, if we're going to be doing a druidry that's real and now. So, social media. I've had a lot of thoughts on it for a while. Instagram, Twitter are currently not even on my phone. For the fellow Tolkien people out there, I've been starting to feel like they resemble the Palantir, like post Sauron. So I'm not terribly interested in subjecting myself to a ton of it, and I find my time is better spent elsewhere. However, and I'm already talking a lot, we can't simply live under a rock. So let's just get started with that. If one is looking at things through a druidic perspective, as it were, what are your sort of values to start off with in that sort of realm? And we'll go from there.
So one of my biggest principles when it comes to anything spiritual, magical, political, is we have to begin where we are. We have to begin with reality.
Yep.
And there's two main realities when it comes to social media. The first is that it's here. Mm-hmm. It's a reality. It's a part of our lives. If it wasn't for social media, Under the Ancient Oaks would not exist. Nobody would know to read my blog. Mm-hmm. The classes that I teach, I would have an awful time trying to not so much promote them, but just let people know they're out there.
Right.
So social media it's become a necessity, and I use it to keep up with my friends, to keep up with what's going on in the wider pagan community, understanding, as Jason Mankey likes to remind me, that online paganism is just a small subset of the total pagan community, pagan world.
Right.
And again, something to promote and publicize my work. It's necessary. On the other hand, social media is designed to be addictive.
Precisely.
It is, and we didn't discuss parameters on here. I assume mild profanity is okay.
Yes, please.
Are you familiar with the concept of the enshittification of the internet?
I'd appreciate another.
Okay, so this is, and I can't remember who came up with it, but it's one particular person who came up with the idea of the enshittification of the internet. Mm-hmm. How things started out great for the end users because they were designed for the end users.
Right.
And then things started going downhill because the people who were making these things were trying to make more money out of them. And so they turned their focus from the users to the advertisers. And that made it a little more shitty.
Mm-hmm.
And then they forgot the advertisers and turned it just, how do we milk this thing for the investors?
Precisely. Yeah.
And you see that in social media. You see it in Uber. You see it with Airbnb. You see all this cool new stuff that we thought was great, and it was great, and then they just started making it shittier and shittier so they could extract as much money out of it as possible. And that's where we are with social media. So it's designed to be addicted.
Yeah.
It's designed to keep us scrolling on the phone, clicking on the desktop. And I'm not immune to that. You're not immune to that. No, you're not immune to that.
Very much so.
We have to be aware of it and take conscious steps to make sure it still works for us and doesn't just keep feeding the algorithm and keep feeding the outrage machine. For me, I'm old. I'm mainly on Facebook because that's where my friends are. I'm on Instagram. Don't do as much there. I'm on Threads. I'm on Blue Sky. I post blog posts there. Occasionally we'll post something else there, but mainly this is that's about all I do with it. But Facebook is to the point where I can't just put a blog post on there anymore. I have to put a picture, put the words, and then put the link to the blog post in the comments. Otherwise, they're not going to show it.
Right.
I have just about stopped using Twitter. I never got a lot of traction out of it anyway. Even at the height of blogging, the blogging world ain't much anymore. My traffic is probably a third of what it was 5 years ago. And part of that is people just aren't blogging, and blogging is it's an environment. The more people blog, the more people write, the more people read one, and then they want to read another, and they want to read another, and we all rise and fall together. And right now we've fallen pretty far. But I don't use Twitter much. Elon turned it into a cesspool. It was already pretty much a cesspool.
I was going to say
it was already pretty much a cesspool. He made it even worse. I still keep it on my phone. I still check it occasionally. There are some journalists and some sports writers
certainly
who I like to follow, but that's the only place I can find them. But I've limited myself to the following, so I don't do the for you anymore, because it's just going to feed me something that's it's going to annoy me.
Oh yeah.
And it may feed something that's going to annoy me anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Limit my time, limit my exposure, make sure it's working for me and not working for them.
I think that's precisely where the sort of taking a druidic, as it were, approach goes a very long way, because forgive me for sounding like that person, but when I first started having a real, almost grappling session with social media and the addictive quality of it, because that's what it's designed for, I started getting the feeling that it was taking literally all the willpower that I've built through meditation, crazy psychedelic experiences, every insane experience I've ever had. It takes all of that to not be sucked up into this abyss.
It is.
And that's where, you're talking about moderating time. And I think moderation it sounds so boring, I know. I used to talk about such sexy things on this podcast, but whatever. That's where it starts, because literally just limiting your exposure to it, I think, keeps you more grounded in reality. But we bring up a lot of different things here. And one of them, it's, for one, I don't want to say passive, but the almost passive, like if you don't post a lot, you're kind of just whatever. It's destructive for that person. But then those of us that are posting at all, and I barely include myself in that at this point, I'm kind of getting back into it. You are doing the work that used to take an entire team to do. You're talking about photography,
yes,
videos, scripting, all of it, editing. I, years ago, was this close to becoming an audio engineer. I decided I didn't want to do it because there was too much editing involved. Now, that level of editing that I didn't want to do, even though I love the rest of the work, is now what is expected of the casual user online.
Yes.
And that, to me, and even when you want to talk about Druidry, let alone spirituality, period, just being an authentic human being, when you are expected to do the work of an entire production team, of course, at what point are you actually going to breathe, realize where you even stand, what your voice even is. Do I have anything to say? Is it pertaining to anything that's a hot topic right now? Like, none of those things really have a moment to come into the picture because there's so much pressure to just participate in this abyss.
And that's before we get to the feedback loops.
Yes, yeah,
And the echo chambers, and where you're expected to hold certain opinions, and if you deviate from that, your echo chamber is going to hammer you in a way nobody would dare to do in person.
precisely.
And not just because they were afraid they'd get punched in the face, because they just wouldn't do that. But when they're sitting behind a keyboard, they will say horrible things.
Precisely.
And I'm a good political liberal. I'm a good social liberal. Call me woke. I don't care. But at the same time, there's some serious things going on right now, and we need to build our alliances, and not just among the people who see the world exactly like we do. We need to be able to work with the people who we don't see eye to eye with on every issue, but we have common goals, sadly to say, common enemies.
Sure.
And we need to work with those people. I'm a pagan. I will happily, and I have, and you can go back and read the blog in 2015, 2016, and there were some knockdown dragouts between the polytheists and the atheists.
Oh, sure.
But I will happily work with atheists to make sure that our schools have real science in them. I will happily work with atheists to fight the people who are trying to establish their religion as the default religion of the United States.
Certainly.
If they think I'm silly for praying to my gods, well, that's their business.
That's their right.
I will, again, I'm among my other religious identities, I'm a Unitarian Universalist.
Right.
People ask me, what do you believe? Well, we believe it's not our job to tell you what to believe. It's our job to love and support each other as we make our way through life. And as a UU, I will work with the Presbyterians on immigration reform. I work with Catholics on immigration reform. Now, I'm going to oppose the Catholics on reproductive rights, but that doesn't mean where we have a common interest, we can't work together. We had better be working together and not just trying to create this purity chamber where everybody has to believe exactly the right thing or you don't want anything to do with them.
Yes.
So that leads to isolation. And if you're isolated, you're easy to pick off.
100%. And I think I appreciate, like, you're coming from a premise, I feel, of actual conviction. And this sort of like the echo chamber thing that we're talking about, it's completely destroyed any semblance of, I would say, even normal communication. And that's where I really feel like, okay, at that point, is the juice worth the squeeze? And for me, it hasn't been, but at the same time, as you kind of said in the beginning, there is no hiding under a rock. This is not going to go away. The internet is here, like more than the internet is here. I'm even behind. So I think there's some people that I see occasionally try and almost set terms for etiquette online. I'm like, I'm sorry, pointless. You can't control anyone else.
You have to set your own terms and enforce your own boundaries. Yes. And let's just be honest.
Yeah.
There are some people who have to treat social media like alcoholics treat alcohol.
Yeah.
They have to say, I can't be around this at all. If I do, I will get sucked into that, and that will begin a downward spiral.
Yes. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I mean, personally, so I appreciate hearing your perspective because personally, there are so many different factors about this that I want to pick into at any given time, and any number of them I could go off on for long tangents. So I'm happy to start wherever. But God, it's not just, so a few times now I've taken breaks from social media, and a friend of mine that I've referred to as my bard in chief quite a few times, because when I lived in LA, she was my almost wing woman for rituals. She's always good for an evocation spontaneously, so she's my bard. And we both took social media breaks at comparable times. And part of the silver lining of it was when she was offline and I was on, I would like print out memes and give them to her in like a scroll form. But we both kind of said that like, no matter how long we took off, the second that we were back on, it was basically the same. So to me at this point, I keep this stuff off of my phone and I know very clearly what I am going online for, and I go online to do it and then I'm off. And maybe other people feel differently, but when I was kind of poking around different articles and data potentially for this conversation, I was trying to look at the numbers of how much time people are actually spending online. And I think it's vastly underreported because I looked at some basic statistics around it, and this is recent, like current enough numbers, and it says that people spend only 2 hours a day, for example, on TikTok. I don't believe that. That's already too much, but I think that sounds low for the kind of people that I'm aware of, unfortunately.
So the thing that I keep coming back to is a question of priorities.
Yeah.
I have priorities, and my paying job is a priority because that's what pays for all this stuff.
It should be.
My paying job is a priority. My relationship with my family, family of blood, family of choice, that's important. My spiritual practice, my daily prayers, my weekly offerings, my seasonal celebrations, those are priorities. Writing is a priority in that when I have something to say, I need to say it. And I've learned over the last few years, as I've seen the blog numbers continue to drop, if I don't have something to say, I'm not going to force it. But those are my priorities. And if I'm sitting there scrolling through Twitter, scrolling through Facebook, getting angry,
yeah,
I'm not writing.
Yeah.
I'm not talking to my friends. I'm not building my next online class.
Right.
And, there's only so much time in a day.
Yeah.
And when I go from staying in touch with my friends, keeping up with what's going on in the community, promoting my own work, when I go much beyond that, I'm getting out of balance with my priorities, and that's never a good thing.
100%. I feel like there's, especially when you go past that point, there's a robbing of inspiration that happens, because it's not just a simple fact that you're not spending any time being open and receptive and creative and you're just being fed things. It's you're seeing what other people decide is worth talking about. And for the record, I strongly feel for the most part, most of the opinions, hot topic, whatever you see going around, it's because people know that is what will get them clicks. They don't care. Most of these people don't care about what they're talking about. Many of them probably don't even believe it. And I'm not even talking about magic specifically even. I'm just talking about online creators, as it were. Like, broadly speaking, if anything, I pay more attention to the online fitness world than magic and paganism at this point, because frankly, I learn better like, if I want to learn something, I'll take a class, I'll read a book, I'll do it for myself. I'm respectfully not hopping on Instagram to find somebody younger than me. And even I'm pushing it, for the record. I know damn well that I've pushed it when I've taught at my age. For the record, I am very, very open about, I'm not a guru, not an expert. If I don't know something, I'll tell you. If I'm speculating, I'll tell you. I am very clear about where I'm getting my stuff. Besides the point, I just feel like, to talk about actual priorities, if people are trying to actually learn something, maybe from sources that don't have a vested interest in keeping your eyeballs glued to the screen and making money off your attention, is probably a good place to start. And, obviously there's quality control even when it comes to books or YouTube or what have you, but I feel like the quality control, for me at least, is easier to do.
So one of the things that I have done, and I'm not going to blow my own horn too much on here, but one of the things, or reasons there's two reasons I have never seriously considered doing all this full time.
Oh yeah.
Making my druidry and my paganism, making that a job. Number one, you can't make any money at it. I'm not rich by any stretch of the imagination, but hey, I've been an engineer for 40 years. I make a decent living. I can't do that writing blogs and books. My best year on income from all of that spiritual work almost got me above the federal poverty. Not quite, but almost. And the other years, it's, okay, that'll buy a nice dinner.
Sure.
But the other reason that I've never seriously considered trying to do this full time is that I don't have that drive, temptation to do something just for the money.
Yeah.
I write what I want to write. And if people don't like it, if they don't buy it, if they don't click on the blog, if they don't buy the book, well, okay. I said what I needed to say. I'm not going to lose my house because somebody didn't like what I had to say in my book.
That's important. That's important. God, I feel like, so when we talk about, I mean, I might edit some of my hems and haws out of this too. I know for myself, when it comes to like keeping that distance, so I actually say what I want to say and I care about my voice, as it were, and I'm not just putting stuff out. I refuse to use the word content for the record. I
hate the word.
Yeah.
Hate the word.
I think it's basically black magic, like, because content means absolutely nothing. It could be substitutable with anything else. Content applies to advertising. It applies to, infotainment. And this is some of what I've been getting on lately too, is when you look at what people are really doom scrolling through for hours and hours a day, and I don't believe it's just 2 hours, we're basically recreating reality television. Like, that's all it is, right? It's the same kind of bullshit production, and we're recreating infotainment, like, to where it's the same BS you see on the quote news, on whatever, TV channels that are now dying out. People are recreating, like, buy my snake oil, here's my sleep blend. Like, respectfully, no diss to the guy, but I was training somebody at the gym the other day who said that he was buying a sleep blend that he didn't even know what the ingredients were because Tim Pool promoted it. Tim Pool doesn't work out, for the record, from what I've seen anyway. And even if he does, even if someone does, why don't you know what it is that you're considering? But this is what I'm talking about. This is the culture that we're in. And I have unfollowed people who I'm like, okay, you have a great physique. What you do works for you, but you're lying about being on steroids. And you're basically creating this false expectation that, oh, if I buy your program and if I take what you're taking, I can look like you. No, I can't. I can never look like that unless I get on what you're on.
And on one hand, any authority I have as a spiritual leader comes from the fact that what I talk about works.
Yes.
And it worked for me, and so I'm sharing it, and hopefully it will work for me.
Certainly.
And I mean, you're not the same person that I am. And what I do may not work for you. Probably it's going to work 80%. For that other 20%, you're on your own. And I have no authority nor desire to tell people you should follow exactly what I did. You do. This is what worked for me. Try it.
Right.
If it works for you, great. If it doesn't, here's a whole list of other authors and teachers who do similar things or totally different things. Go find what works for you, because you are responsible for your life, and you are the one who will pay the price if you're doing the wrong things.
Absolutely. And that's where it sounds so simple. And I repeatedly refer to Druidry as deceptively simple, because on the surface, it's like you have these very basic sounding tenets, whatever, but it will go as deep as you are willing to go. And for me, it sounds basic, but it really comes down to building your own relationships. And that's why, again, I say with love, like, there are some things I will probably never post on, I will never make videos on, that I have heard, I am not remotely tooting my own horn, but magic does work in my feeling. And it works because I have the relationships I have. And not to toot my own horn, but when I'm just going to say straight up, because I don't make a secret of it, I have hexed people's abusers and gotten very, very serious results about it rather quickly. But then when people turn and ask me, why don't you make a video on how to do it? Why don't you teach me? It's like, well, there's a lot of reasons. For one, I don't know who you are. For two, I don't know your I don't know your integrity. I don't know how you're going to use this. For three, the most likely outcome is you drive yourself crazy before you hurt anyone else. And long story long, like, how I work again is because, and this won't sound long to plenty of people, my mentor has been working, or mentor, whatever, my very good friend Murtalk, who I would like to talk to more. I feel bad saying mentor because I haven't talked to him in a long time. Anyways, I'm yapping. He's been in this for decades. I have about a decade of practice for me because I'm 28. I'm yapping so much here, but because I have had a devotional relationship to the Morrigan for 10 plus years. That's different than, forgive me, somebody kind of randomly deciding, hey, I want to make something sexy and dangerous happen. Let me put a coin in this random deity's freaking altar and I should get the same results. No, you won't. Because respectfully, like, part of my whole fitness thing, which I've also been very open about, that is my most consistent offering to her. And frankly, it's why I feel it, as humbly as I possibly can, that's why our relationship is as strong as it is. Because every single day that I'm in the gym sweating, that's a direct offering. It's not, there are some parts that are for me, obviously, that it helps me, but you guys got what I'm saying.
So I do not do magic for hire.
Right.
Now, if you call me, I know you. If you come say, hey, I got a problem, can you help me out? Of course I'm going to do that. But if somebody I've never heard of on the internet sends me a message, hey, I need a spell, here are the books.
Yep.
Here are some people I know who do magic for hire. Go for it.
Sure.
It's just, there's an entanglement there that I don't want to get caught up in.
Which is totally understandable and respectable. And there's times where, frankly, I will turn down the money if it smells wrong.
So you mentioned the Morrigan and doing so. I need to take just a couple minutes and tell this story.
Please.
So early on my pagan journey, early on my polytheist journey, I discovered the Morrigan when I was looking for a Lunasan ritual. This was 04, 05, something like that. And Deadly Cups, I was leading Deadly Cups, Lunasan ritual, and we were still kind of Wiccanish at the time, and we felt like gender balance was important. And so Lu is our god, who's our goddess. Well, I found an ADF ritual that honored the Morrigan in her role as goddess of sovereignty. And so we, that created something probably for me and Corrigan.
I was going to ask, it sounds like Ian's, yeah.
It was probably Ian's. And we had a good ritual.
Mm-hmm.
And the next year we used the same script. Year after that, nothing to do with Lunasad.
Uh-huh.
I had a woman friend in another state who was in danger. She was in domestic violence. And she was 600 miles away. And I couldn't do anything. I'm here. She was there. What do? I'm learning all about the Morrigan. Morrigan, great queen. This sounds like something you might have an interest in. And, I would appreciate it if you would help my friend. My friend was okay. She got out of the situation.
Okay.
About a month later, had the same thing happen. Another friend, another situation, another domestic violence issue. Morrigan, would you help this friend? I would really appreciate it. My friend was fine. She got out. About a month later, here comes number 3. And I'm going back to that same will. Morrigan, great queen, you have graciously helped these friends. Here's somebody else again. I think that this is something you might have an interest in. Please help my friend. Then I heard that voice back here. I have done these things for you. Now there's some things I want you to do for me.
You keep knocking.
And that began a series of writing blog posts and leading Sunday services in the UU Church and making offerings and leading public ritual. And for a while there, I called myself her Druid on retainer. We had no formal relationship, but I can, hey, you Druid, go do this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that ended, skipping around a bunch, that ended with a few years before COVID. It was like with me taking an oath to serve as her Druid for the rest of this life because I believe in her and I believe in her works. I want to be a part of that. But yeah, those friends who got out of that situation, certainly they deserve the first credit because they got themselves out. But to whatever extent I deserve any credit for helping that along was because I had a relationship with the Morrigan, and I was borrowing some favors that got called in. And I'm very happy with the way it worked out. But it's like, yeah, you got that. You mentioned relationship. You've got these relationships that you can draw on. And if I went to the Morrigan and said, "Hey, I just took $100 check from this person, and they need something," and yeah, well, what do you want me to do about it?
Yeah.
So, nah, we're not going to do that.
No, and super understandable. Gosh, I mean, there's so many things I could focus on with that. I will start with, for example, to talk about relationship building a little bit and to sort of try and connect it to the general tangent here. Something that I've kind of returned to, because before anything else, and this has been what I return to sort of when I get to just overwhelmed and flustered by the digital stuff, the day-to-day, whatever. I want to just go back to, okay, for 10 years now, I've been devoted to this goddess, and I want to give her the best version of me that I can. I don't want to give, like her a sub. If I'm going to ask her to put me to use, then I want to make that's why I work it on, all of me. So I have I enjoy doing weird recovery stuff anyways, but I've made more of a practice out of specifically, it's just they call it everything therapy, whatever, float tank therapy. The therapy part, I think, whatever. But to me, spending an hour just floating in water in pitch black, with or without music, it to me is just the most beautiful, peaceful form of decompression. And it's where I've finally started. I feel like I'm communing more with her again.
Hey,
yeah.
If it works for you, that's like, I had a little bit of claustrophobia. So
fair.
Not sure that's for me.
More than fair. I didn't want to throw you under the bus, but I would. I'm always curious to ask other, definitely Druids first and then practitioners more broadly about stuff like that. Because for me, I mean, something that I find so exciting about Druidry is the focus on ordeal, as it were. And I, given that, again, we're talking about living in the modern world and the present, and we are where we are, I'm always trying to find new ways to sort of put myself in that in like a safe but confrontational enough way that I should come out kind of changed, and it should force me into something outside of the norm. So I do float a lot because to me it's peaceful. Plenty of people that I bring it up to don't like the idea of being closed in. More than fair. I did contrast therapy recently, which I'm gonna do honestly probably its own video something on, because this is what really excites me. It felt more like a physical banishing ritual. Like, I can give you all the words and all the scripts in the world, but literally almost anything in this life I can meditate my way through and be fine. That is so unpleasant that you cannot escapism or meditate or anything your way out of it. It just forces you to be there. And I am drawn to that because I feel like to do, I don't want to use the royal we too broadly here, but just like to do magic, to be druids, to do what we do, you have to be able to know where different parts of you end and begin. If that makes any sense. So I talk about this stuff partially to say, if we can find practices to really build up that discipline and that separation and just actual good old-fashioned meditation, which I recommend for literally everyone, I think that's a good starting point. Although I will say, funny enough, this is still kind of sitting with me. I went to my float tank spot and I was talking to another lady who was very, very sweet and kind of had a similar thing, except she had tried the float for herself. But she's like, I just can't click with it. It just sucks. I just feel like I'm floating in the darkness by myself. And I asked, well, do you meditate? And she's like, well, I'm Christian. I don't meditate. And for the record, this was not a native Texan. Before people want to make fun of Texas people being whatever, this was someone like me that moved from California to here. And I wasn't there to pick on her, so I didn't share too much of all of my thoughts. But for one, obviously, I don't think those two are contradictory in the slightest.
A lot of Christians throughout history would disagree with that.
Strongly, to where I'm like, okay, I can kind of guess where you're, whatever. And I'm like, okay, my second question, which is just as unlikely now that I know that, is have you ever done mushrooms? No. Okay, cool. Then you have no reference point.
Yep.
But basically, I asked it only to know, is there ever a situation where it is just you and silence? And for me, at least at this point, and that's for people that it's not a claustrophobia thing and you just feel weird. It's this, to me, I think it's the silence of it that's very confrontational. And for the record, where I go, there is like a music, they play all this soothing new age stuff. I am off most of the time. Anyways, I just feel like with the constant, there is constantly almost an onslaught to get and keep our attention on the most banal shit possible. So where I try and spend as much of my free time as I can is on preserving that space.
Yeah. So one of the things I will do, I don't do it enough, but I do it. I mean, right here, but I will sit right here on this floor, and with a with a candle in front of me, turn the lights off, turn the monitor off, and just focus on that candle.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's the Buddhist style mindfulness meditation, empty your mind. And more frequently for me, it's looking up at that altar there and asking the Morrigan or Cernunnos or Brigid, what do I need to be doing?
Yeah.
I'm hearing some stuff. What do you need to, what are you trying to tell me that I'm not hearing? And just sit there and listen.
Right.
Yeah. This has been a while, thankfully. I was, and I do not remember who I was talking to, but it was one of them. And, something had come up and I was going into some pretty nice prayers. And what I heard was, yes, you speak very nicely. Now, will you listen for a minute?
Shut up. No, I get that.
So,
that's real.
Yeah, it is. So the Buddhist style emptying your mind, I do that some. It's really not. I won't say I don't get much out of it, but it's not the primary focus. Most of my meditation is that here's the Morrigan, here's Cernunnos, here's the big statue out, and okay, I'm just looking at that statue.
Yeah.
And not staring at it, not trying to dissect it, not trying to critique the artwork, but just the statue as a representation of this deity. What are you trying to tell me that I'm not hearing? What do I need to hear that, that maybe you haven't even said it yet, but something I need to hear, and just be open to that. And that's almost always productive to one degree or another. So if you're not, if the empty your mind thing isn't for you, then that devotional meditation may work better for you.
Very much so. And I will say, like, part of you brought up, I'm genuinely curious if we might have come across the same Lunasa ritual, because so I love Ian Corrigan stuff. I've, especially to this point, like his audios on the Druid's Fortress and like all of it, like that was fundamental for me when I was starting off in Share the Tree. And it's for free online, which is to me priceless. But there was a specific Lunasa ritual where the Morrigan was not used, but she was placed there as, goddess of sovereignty. And when I used that sort of outline template as a jumping off point, as it were, and kind of added some energy building stuff. But people repeatedly asked me, what's the deal with having the Morrigan in a Lunasa ritual in this capacity? And I remember I had my own thoughts, but I just messaged Ian because we're friends on Facebook. And he's like, because she goes there or something to that. I don't remember his exact words, but he's like, duh.
Well, the Lu and the Morrigan are very closely related in the, in the lore. At the Battle of Moitura, I mean, Lu was the battle for the Tuatha De Danann, but the Morrigan was there who told them, undertake a battle of overthrowing. And then was there supporting the battle. Probably we see her with swords and spears. She really doesn't fight with physical weapons very much. You see her fighting with magic.
I talk about that a lot every time I'm talking about her in a class or group setting or anything. I think that's one of her fundamental, like almost defining characteristics, where that's where you kind of see what her magic is about. She's not picking up a sword. She's not picking up an axe. It's all here.
And if you go back to what we know about the ancient Druids, the original Druids, they did some of that too.
Oh, yeah.
Read Tacitus and the beginnings, the successful beginnings of which became the Manistrates massacre, where the Druids were out issuing their imprecations and the Roman soldiers were frozen in fear, and then eventually the Roman discipline and superior numbers took over. But against an enemy where your numbers are more balanced, where your technology is more balanced,
right,
that can very easily carry the day.
Certainly. And I think especially like to this, to bring it to the present as well, like that's part of why I care so much about like basically just not losing my mind and not to anything, like to not becoming overly distracted, to not. And I find it very interesting how all of these things, we call them exactly what they are. Doom scrolling. That's exactly what it is. Brain rot is exactly what it is. And not to get too much into it, but I had a bit of a rabbit hole moment realizing that all of Peter Thiel's capital projects are named after various things in the Lord of the Rings that relate to their function. He literally called his data mining group Palantir, which I'm like, oh, okay, so we're just not even hiding in plain sight. We're just calling it what it is. Cool. I will operate accordingly.
Oh. The thing I have to watch out with social media and really beyond social media, with the internet in general, is just looking for that next thing.
Yeah.
And
right.
Sometimes you're bored.
Right.
Sometimes, like yesterday, today's blog post was not easy to write. The first half on the second half really dragged, and it took me, I had 3 or 4 false starts before I think, okay, this is the direction I need to go. This is how I need to build up to this conclusion, and it seems to be going over fairly well. But while I'm sitting here struggling with this, anybody saying anything on social, anything on Facebook? just looking for a distraction for a moment, and let's just see if there's anything interesting going over there. Can turn from 2 minutes checking for updates to there goes 20 minutes.
Oh yeah, minimum.
Yeah. So again, always looking for that next big thing,
right?
And you all of a sudden it's all of a sudden the day's gone.
Yeah. Which I've been thinking about that part lately too, where it's like we're always looking for whatever it is, and I'm like, for one, do we even know what it is? Why do we keep like, what are we looking for when we're doing this? But for two, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I feel like it's almost making this fundamental statement that my space for creativity, my space for curiosity, whatever I have to say is not enough. I have to constantly be looking for this stuff. And I think if I want to go in a rabbit hole about Reynard the Fox and his lore in the 1800s, and, just doing something like that is a better use of my time, or even me going on one of my random rants that I tend to go on when the mood strikes me, that is still I will simply say, I think whatever your voice is and honing that is more worthwhile. You can simply feed that, or I don't know, have an actual conversation with your real friend.
Have an actual conversation with real friends. Go read a book.
Yeah.
I have. My wife was on me about this a long time. So you walked up the stairs. You saw all the books.
Oh yeah.
We both, and before we met, in the early years of our marriage, we both read a lot. And then I got busy, and all my reading was nonfiction.
Oh yeah.
Yep. And I was losing something. I was losing that inspiration.
Yes.
And occasionally you'll see a movie or a TV show that really is genuinely inspiring.
Oh yeah.
Most of it's not. Most of it's just killing time.
Mm-hmm.
But most books, even if they're only mediocre, they can be inspiring. They're, as I like to tell people, we can't do the kind of magic that fictional witches, wizards, druids can do. But when I read about that fictional magic, I get inspired to do the magic that we can do.
Yes.
And I don't get that. I don't get that, flipping through the channels on TV. I certainly don't get it from surfing the internet.
100%. And I think that that's something else that like I continue to just fall in love with Druidry as a path, because we have, a priority on just the sort of bardic current, as it were. And that's in both parts of like being the one who's reading or listening to a story. And in turn, as you're saying, that'll inspire you to do your own storytelling, however that is. And right, even though like I can't make lightning shoot out of my palms, maybe the next time I read about something cool in fantasy, the next ritual I do, you can certainly build energy to a rather, whatever effect you're kind of going for. So that, I think, and you touch on specifically inspiration, when you are constantly allowing yourself to be fed stuff that literally at its best is just trying to sell you something, there is what room is there for any inspiration? So, and again, like at best, trying to sell you something, and then your response to that is at best just a response. It keeps you in this knee-jerk reaction to, well, this person said this, so I have to sound smart. And I like anytime you read how to get 1 million followers, it's like, just establish yourself as an authority on this niche. I'm like, bro, this is why you have all these people that don't know anything, acting like blowhards online, and they don't even buy what they're saying. So I'm like, you know what? What if we just stepped like royally, include or exclude yourself as you see fit? What if we stepped away from that kind of first premise to begin with and went back to, forgive me for potentially sounding like I'm waving my cane here, but the internet was very much already a thing when I was a child. But I remember like the people in my generation have a fondness, I think, for, or at least witches, have a fondness for the dragonology and wizardology type books. They're these like almost pop-up. And there was this immersive website that had this almost choose your own adventure feel to it. And I remember being on like the OneRing.net, which was like this Tolkien super fans, because I've always been really into it, with like the discussion boards. And there was a very different feel. And it was almost a feel of actual discovery versus now, almost by default, the way that these websites are created, there is no discovery. It's just kind of like, here's my account, here's 1 million tweets coming at you a second, here's everyone. And this is part of what made me so nauseated by Twitter itself. Not even my own crappy experience with it, frankly. But after that, just seeing people dissect the same topic for weeks on end, it doesn't matter. It'll be like, oh, what does this person's body language signify? I'm like, do any of you have a life? Like, do you have a job, a relationship, friends? Like, we're reaching such a point of over-analysis over things that don't matter that it takes me back to like, you know what? My random tirade about Reynard the Fox is more important. Like, let me curate my voice.
Yep.
So I'll put it at that.
Break for a minute.
Please.
How are we doing on time, and how are you doing on the points you want to hit?
We are. So I want to try and bring up something else that has been irritating the hell out of me, pet peeving me, whatever you want to call it. So the sort of clickbait approach that keeps people just clicking, that we've kind of been touching on already, that has been, infecting everything, but definitely we're talking about magic, spirituality, paganism, druidry specifically. So I would love to hear your thoughts on, essentially not polishing your practice, if it even exists, into something packageable to sort of post on the internet, actually curating what you post online so that it stays meaningful. I'll kind of let it go from there.
So there's a couple of things we need to talk about on that. First of all is understand that a lot of what you see online is just bullshit. Particularly with, I've learned not to judge people on age, because I've seen some young practitioners who know their shit.
Oh, 100%.
And you can almost always tell them, because they will say, I know this much.
Yeah.
And I don't know beyond that yet. I haven't done that yet. Yeah. And they're honest about where they are. And they're really good about what they do know. And we need those people. We need those people to reach other people who won't listen to somebody who looks like me. And we also need them because they're not, if they've got that for 25, what are they going to be like at 50? Hopefully not burned out. But understand that a lot of what people put online just isn't real
content. Yeah,
it's content.
Yeah.
again, for myself, what you read, what you see is stuff that I have done. I when we were talking that you were kind enough to come out to Denton Cup's summer solstice ritual, and
My pleasure.
and one of the things that I tried to point out is, you read The Path of Paganism. If there is no Denton Cups, there is no Path of Paganism, because the things I write about in there, particularly the rituals and the group workings, that's stuff we did,
Right.
and I learned about it, and I made some mistakes, and refined all that in that practice. So what I'm writing about are the things that I know work because I've done them. So we have to curate. We'll use that word. We have to curate our experiences and make sure that what we're telling people, what we're teaching, selling,
Yes.
whether you're literally selling it or just promoting and hoping other people will pick up on it, it's something you've done, actually done, and you know it works as you've done it.
Yes.
The second point, though, is that mine just went blank. You're going to have to edit this.
Nope.
I have 3 points, and that's one of them. And give me a minute. I would blame it on getting old, but
Me too.
it's. Oh yeah. All right. Let me start over. And then one of the other things I see people doing is they talk about their good experiences,
Yes.
and they never talk about their bad experience.
And want to act like they're better than that. Yeah.
And everything is so great, and I try not to do that. I'm pretty honest that 2024 was a bad year for me.
Yeah.
I was dealing with a stressful time at my paying job. My mother was in the last years of her life, and her last couple of years were hard on her and hard on all of us. I had some other things going on in my life. It got hurt. And the people who follow me, for lack of a better word, not real comfortable with that, but the people who follow my work, let's put it that way, the people who read my work on a regular basis, they need to understand that this happens to me too. Because if I just talk about the good things I do all the time and never talk about the bad things, well, what's wrong with me?
Mm-hmm.
Why is my life not great all the time? Nobody's life is great all the time.
This is the magic version of acting like you're not on steroids.
Yeah.
When you are, yeah.
So again, we're sometimes we curate things in a way that presents a false front.
Yes.
And I think we have to be. Nobody wants to read about somebody who's whining all the time.
Of course. Yeah.
But we have to present ourselves honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a matter of integrity.
I agree.
Particularly for somebody with a public presence. This is who I am. This is the good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This is the not so good stuff. This is what I'm doing to try to make the not so good stuff better. And it's going to take some time.
I hear that, and I second it. And honestly, what I would be looking for is I would like to see people that are, if we're posting about this stuff and sharing our experience with it, for one, I want to see you sharing your actual experience and not something that's very obviously like, here's the most aesthetically pleasing, curated, fake altar that I probably don't even use.
Yeah.
If we're going to be talking about magic, then what if we actually did it? Like, I've been asking that question for like 5 years. I knew it, which is why I love Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, which if you haven't read it, I recommend it, because the first pages of that, I was like, I've been asking this question for quite a while. Why don't we do the goddamn magic? God, I had my own point and now it's disappearing too. But I guess it's sort of, just like not something that is that isn't just blatantly catering to, even if you're not calling it materialism, I'm sorry, it very much is, because it's endlessly the I hate haul videos. Like my shopping haul, I went shopping and I go to for one, what is wrong with you? Why are we posting this? And why are we watching it? And also, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see a day in my life. Sorry. I don't want to see what you eat in a day. I don't want to see this stuff. I want to see actual subject. Maybe some people care. I'm sorry. I don't. If we like things like devotion, meditation, whatever, like there are actual subjects still, I promise, that we can very much talk about.
And I have seen some people who've done this, mostly younger people in that category I was just talking about, who were, hey, I'm only going this far, but this is what I've done. It's worked for me, and here it is. And they're really filling a notary. But I've also seen those same people feel pressured to producing.
That's the issue.
And now all of a sudden, go along with me as I go on this shopping trip. Really?
That's kind of my issue, and that's what happens when it's, as you're saying, like, it becomes a pressure to constantly push out more and more content with no actual depth. And when, again, we're talking about spiritual practices, there is a lot of value, I strongly believe, in taking breaks and redeciding what things even mean to you. Like the sort of bard friend that I mentioned, we'll check in with each other when, we'll be having a moment of like, you know what, I don't like all this stuff on my altar, going to take it off. I'm not feeling like playing dress up. We're going to dress normal for whatever it is. And I feel like if you don't allow yourself the room to do that, you don't have a real practice. Sorry.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you have to and also break. I think breaks are part of the path for one. It's whatever, but
just come back.
Yes. Yeah.
So the third thing that we need to talk about when you're talking about curation is the fact that not everything is for public consumption.
Yes.
I will, I have people say, never show a picture of your altar.
I used to be a hard ass about that.
No, you don't have to.
If you want to, you can.
I'm sorry, you don't. I don't think that creates an exploitable connection to me. And if it was, I'm sorry. I do shielding and warding all the time. You're not getting in.
Yeah.
But there's some things that aren't for public consumption. Some things are just too private. They're too personal. They're about me and my path, and in some cases, my deep-seated trauma. And that's not for public consumption. I do ecstatic rituals.
Yeah.
Not all the time, but I do them. But, if I've got a small group out in my backyard and we're going to see if the Morrigan wants to show up, and if she shows up, who she wants to grab to talk through, there are not going to be cameras on there.
Right.
There's not going to be any blog posts about that.
Yeah.
This is for the people who are there.
I feel really
because if you're not there, you don't have the context. So again, I'm a good New Year pagan. There are no creedal tests to dance the maypole. If you're pouring an offering to Brigid, I don't care if you're pouring to the goddess, to the saint, to the personification of Smithcraft poetry and healing. But if we're doing a devotional ritual to Brigid and we expect to hear from her, yet it matters that you agree that she's a real individual person.
Yes.
And we're going to be doing that ritual from that perspective. And the pantheists, the soft polytheists, I can't do deep ritual with those people because we don't see things the same way. And then when something mystical, something ecstatic happens, and all of a sudden the voice coming from that person's mouth isn't their voice anymore.
Huh?
I don't want somebody telling me that this is a hallucination. I don't want somebody telling me that it's a trick for attention. I want everybody walking into that understanding that the gods are real, and sometimes they will speak directly to us. Now, outside of that ritual, I will admit maybe I'm wrong. Inside that ritual, nah.
Yeah.
We are doing this ritual for Brigid, for the Morrigan. We are asking them to come speak to us directly, and usually they do. And I want the people who what is said in there. If you weren't there, you're not going to fully understand. I'm there and I struggle to fully understand.
Right.
Much less somebody who wasn't there and doesn't understand the context, the backstories of all the people standing in the circle, the things that we've been working on, the things that the Morrigan has told us to do in the past that you kind of slack it off here.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have that. It's not for public consumption. So yeah, there's some things you should curate out of your public-facing communications because, some things are not for public consumption.
Yeah.
In our days, there are no more occult secrets. Whatever somebody's, Gerald Gardner's original Book of Shadows is on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
There are people talk more than they should, and if you've got this much knowledge, you can fill in the blanks. I have. I'm not going to use any specific examples because I don't want to put anybody on the spot. But I've had people who have not broken their oaths, but have told me just enough about some oath-bound material that I know, okay, I can take it from there because I've done similar things. There are no occult secrets anymore. There are ineffable mysteries. There are things you will never understand. You will never understand until you experience them yourself.
Yes.
I can tell you all about. Cernunnos.
Sure.
I can tell you all about what it means to have Cernunnos jump inside and all of a sudden I'm dancing around a circle in a way I don't ever do. And you will not understand that until you experience it for yourself.
Yeah.
And writing about it sets expectations that can satisfied. So yeah, there's some things that should be curated out.
I agree. And that's kind of, and I'll try, and I know I don't want to keep you going on forever here, but that's something that I kind of come back to permanently. It's like, all right, I care about real magic. I care about real ritual. As you're touching on, these are things that you really can't talk about past a certain point. So what do you talk about? If you want to stay authentic, if you want to talk about the real thing, whatever it is, I guess everyone has to answer that for themselves. But all I know is I'm not going to keep talking when I have nothing to say.
Yeah.
So
yeah. You've had these experiences, and sometimes I'm going to be very explicit about it. There was a post I did back in 2016. If you want to look at it, go to the blog. It's called The Other World is Bleeding Through. I was on my morning walk, and I saw a bird glowing green in a way that birds don't do. And all of the materialistic, naturalistic explanations, I looked through them because I didn't want to believe I had really seen this thing. No. Either this is an otherworldly bird that made it into our world, or it's a this world bird that made its way into a liminal place between this world and I'm not sure which one it was. I told everybody everything I know. I put these things happen. Again, if all of a sudden I find myself hosting the Morrigan, I'm going to hear about that.
Yeah. I feel like, and I'll cap it at this. I went through many chapters in my initial, being a tween teenager, going through everything from Levian Satanism, Taoism, Wicca. The one thing that I still I don't have a ton of respect for Anton LaVey, but the one thing is a grifter.
Exactly.
Right, snake oil salesman. But there's one thing, probably someone else's idea, that he did put in the Satanic Bible, is that when magic is, basically give credit where it's due. You shouldn't even make it, it's not about him, it's not his idea, but I kind of connected to that because that's where I came across it. So I think at this point in my life, I don't wish to overshare things that are personal to me in that capacity. However, when credit needs to be given, that's typically when you'll see me saying something like, all right, I can't, this isn't even me, it's not me.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But obviously totally different.
Totally different, because there will be times, there are rituals, public rituals that I had led, and I sat at the computer and typed out the script and write that ritual.
Yep.
You, Druid, go do this. And we did that.
I love it. Well, okay, I don't wish to keep you any longer than you would like to continue. So is there anything that you would like to kind of finish on or share?
I think that's about it on this. We've covered it at length. I mean, this is, we've all got to figure out what works for us. The main thing is to make conscious decisions, and don't just fall into the trap of following on what everybody else is doing, and all of a sudden your life isn't what it could be because you're spending too much time on something that isn't helping you in the long run.
Strong words. Well, I will leave it at that and finish with what I always finish with, which is thank you very much for listening. But now is the time to close your laptop, put your phone down, put your screens away, go outside, and go do some magic. Thank you for listening. All right.